And here we are, Get the People Paid, back again for another episode. And instead of those technical issues that we dealt with last week, when you were, we were joined by Alvin and the Chipmunks over here for his wonderful analysis of the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. We're back again together for the Sweet 16, and the Sweet 16 going on now as we're recording. So we'll try to not, make too many predictions as it's happening, but a lot to look forward to this weekend, bro. It's a lot of basketball. And now you're getting into where these Cinderellas that everyone loved in the opening weekends, a la St. Peter's, well done, because, your boy over here had quite a pick for the tournament. Hopefully none of you tailed the 8-1 that was Kentucky that lasted all 40 minutes in the NCAA tournament.
The game did go to overtime.
I'm sorry. Yes. I didn't want to remember
45.
The fact that it went to overtime and the fact that they lost. But nonetheless, not a great start, at least for the future wagers for myself. Other than that, the game-by-game picks have been going well. You're all over Twitter as per usual with those picks. But your thoughts, at least through the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Purdue I've been looking at for a long time. And, we'll talk later about futures from Sweet 16 on. I think it's a great team to look at right now. The two-headed monster of Zach Edey and Travion Williams are doing their job along with Jaden Ivey at the point. Really excited to see the matchup between Texas Tech and Duke tonight as well. Yeah. The defensive-minded Texas Tech against Duke, that I think we'll try to slow it up a little bit tonight, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, usually a team definitely that wants to push the basketball, no doubt about it, but I think they were a little bit exposed with doing that. I definitely think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Perimeter defense, definitely a specialty for Texas Tech, but a lot of pressure on this. We talked about it in last week's episode too, that the pressure on these young Duke players for knowing that any game when there's 4 minutes left could be Coach K's last. So I don't know. I mean, having an athlete's mindset, you don't really think that way, but still, when you're sitting there on the bench, it could creep in the back of your mind if you're down 5 with 2 minutes left. So I think that'll be a fun matchup. You have a few that I thought were really interesting, especially, the matchup with the Fighting Peacocks tomorrow with St. Peter's. They have been shocking people, but I think a team that no one really saw coming out of the MAC. I didn't pick them at all when I analyzed the MAC a few weeks ago when we talked about the conference tournaments, but they've been really shooting the basketball well, and their perimeter defense is very, very good. So that's a game where when you see a line as big as that one, 12 and a half, would I condone you playing, money line on St. Peter's? No, but I definitely think with 12 and a half, that's something you got to look into when you're playing these matchups when you get into weekends like this where there's games on top of each other when you want to watch. That's just the way I look at it.
Definitely a lot of points to be given in a Sweet 16 matchup for sure. You're a guy that has looked at the MAC for a long time, and Siena beat them this year.
Twice, actually.
So to be looking into the March Madness here in this NCAA tournament, you couldn't have been thinking St. Peter's even close to getting to the second round. But yeah, 12 and a half, a lot to be given. We were talking in our Sweet 16 pool that we got going how I would have loved to get them because I love Purdue moving forward, but I don't know about 12 and a half.
It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. And it's one where once you get over 10 in college basketball, it's really tough because no doubt you think Purdue is the better team in this matchup. I don't think there's any doubt about it when you look at the way that they are able to just pound the ball into the paint, and their physicality might just be too much for St. Peter's anyway. But there's some scrappiness to this team. They have the ability to just kind of hang around in games, and they did that in their round of 32 matchup too, and they were able to pull away in the last 5 minutes. So that'll be a fun matchup in my opinion. And of course, before we move on and talk even more about this tournament, we got to thank Johnstone Supply in Troy, Hooters in Albany, where I was able to frequent on Friday night for the live show back in Goz. Had a lot of fun hanging out with Goz, and of course everything he does here for Gozilla Media. Great time with them, and I might make a little appearance there tomorrow too for the games. We'll see how tomorrow night goes, but you want to go check that out. They'll be live at Hooters. That's Friday at 6:30. If you want to stop by and say hi to us, come on over and meet most of the Gozilla Media. Will be there hanging out, and of course we want to thank Mohawk Honda as well as a sponsor of this program, doing a great job at changing lives every day. And we love the fact that guys like I met Jared Lozier the guy for Northeastern Insurance, was talking with him at Hooters. Very high energy guy. Loved it.
It's my agent.
Yeah. He's great. He's doing a great job with Northeastern Insurance. Make sure you go check him out as well. Great partner of the programs here on Gozilla Media. But bro, when they look at tomorrow's matchups, I tend to stay away from bigger spreads like that just because I'm a little nervous. I know we want to talk about that because you have Purdue in our Sweet 16 pool. And, of course, the Fighting Peacocks, and a great story they've been. But you got a couple other matchups that I think are really interesting as well. I want to say I think Kansas absolutely steamrolls Providence in this game. But 7.5 is a number. And, of course, all these lines here on Get People Paid, again, at Get People Paid on Twitter. And you see our scrolling Twitter feeds on the bottom of the page if you're watching us here on YouTube. That's a fun matchup, in my opinion. I think Kansas can really overwhelm Providence, but it just scares me when you get to 7.5 like that. And Providence is a team I think a lot of people had out even before the Sweet 16, and now they're here and they're playing Kansas. Bill Self's team, a 7.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I was one of those people that had the Jackrabbits in round one. Had them beating them. Obviously I had them losing after it. But, yeah, Providence played really well early in the season, but they just seemed like a team to me that peaked too early. You know what? Take it for what it is. They got some rest in the conference tournament, losing early on. And the fact that, all right, well, here they are now. They're playing Kansas, the 7.5. If Providence can slow the game down the way that they're going to want to do, maybe get Kansas in a little bit of foul trouble. They do have Watson down low. They can definitely hang around. But when you have those single-digit numbers, I get scared when it comes to fouling late.
Yeah,
if Kansas is up 4 or 5 with a minute and a half left, they're going to end up covering the game. And you saw that in Duke versus Michigan State in this last round. Duke was down by 2 with 3 minutes left in the game. You said there's no way they cover 6.5, and they cover by 8, or they cover by the 1.5.
Yeah, I absolutely hated that because I might have had something.
I had Duke, so thank you very much.
Yeah, I know. So
I'm glad that we end up on opposite sides a lot of the time. Works out well.
I was trying to actually middle, which is crazy enough. I did not put this on Twitter. This was a personal one because I was at a bowling tournament while I was gambling on it, and I played 2 separate ones. I took Michigan State plus, I think it was 8.5. And Duke minus, I had 7 in one of them. Whatever, I forget what the exact numbers were on top of my head. And I actually had a chance to middle it and was unable to do so. So I ended up doing okay, but I'm like, it could be one of those matchups where you can middle. And that's something that it's tough to do in New York when we use DraftKings mainly as our sports book. But like if you're in Vegas, you can find different lines like that. There's definitely ways you can find ones that could be skewed to try and what we call middle, where you could actually hit both wagers if you're able to do that. But as we look at some of these matchups for Friday, another one I thought was really interesting too was North Carolina and UCLA. That game's a really close spread. I don't think Vegas really knows what to do with this. The ACC, as well as they've been playing in this tournament, and North Carolina on their own as well, they've been playing over the last 3 weeks against a team like UCLA, who was a Final Four team last year. Now is an opportunity to make another run the third weekend of the tournament. I don't know where you go here. This one might be one where you have to tune into our Twitter page for Friday afternoon into Friday evening, because I really don't know where I want to go yet. I don't know if you have a stronger opinion than me in this one, bro.
If I were to take anything, I will say I did have UNC over Baylor in all of my brackets.
You did?
Yes, so you did. I did like them. However, I don't know if I like them against UCLA. I know I have UCLA in my brackets, but I don't really think that I could touch the game there. I would, however, look at that over at 141.5.
Yeah.
And I think I really like that. I think Brady Manick has to be upset with what happened in the last game against Baylor. The fact that game even goes to overtime is absolutely disgusting if you're a UNC fan. So, that last 20 minutes or that last 10 minutes means a lot to how UNC moves forward. Do they just say, you know what? It's in the past now. Love fouled out. Manick got thrown out. It's over with. Or does that linger to the beginning of this game? So I would not be able to touch the spread there. If I did, I'd have to go UCLA, but I'll take the over at 141.5.
Yeah, shout out to one of our boys, Joe Gatto, who was I was with him watching that game and watching UNC almost implode to almost give up that game. And yeah, I think a lot goes to the mindset there. Absolutely, how they were able to battle back and then really overcome to win that game. We'll have to see how the first 4 minutes. And I've always heard this from guys like Will Brown They always say the first 4 minutes of each half are the most important because you can set such a trend. I think the first 4 minutes, no doubt, of that game tomorrow, you will see what kind of UNC team that we will have going. And as Jimmy's still sitting here as we're recording, watching games, this is how live things happen. So you might get a little bit of what it's like to watch a game with Jimmy Mariano that some people have, but I don't know if we'll get that full experience here on this episode of Get the People Paid. But bro, you look at this tournament right now, we're in the Sweet 16 Elite 8 weekend. We figured this wasn't going to be a chalk style tournament. I'm not talking about game by game betting. I'm talking about the seeds themselves getting to the Final Four. Is this exactly how you thought this tournament would go, with a 15 seed in St. Peter's being in the Sweet 16? Or did you expect it to be like the chalks we're seeing with the Villanovas, the Gonzagas, the Dukes, and something like that?
It's really back and forth because you can look at, you had an 11 seed in Michigan that was in. You had another 11 seed here and 10 seed in Miami, the 11 seed in Iowa State. You could say that. But also, you do still have Gonzaga. You still have Duke. And so the powerhouses are still in, really depending on what conference you went through. So, is it exactly how I saw it? No, because the underdogs that I expected to win did not, like Vermont. Okay. Like Vermont in that first round against Arkansas.
That Vermont game. John Becker, just get the ball to Ryan Davis in the last 4 minutes, my man, and you're playing another game. That's all you got to do. Goodness gracious. Thank God you covered the 5, though. Appreciate it. But, I agree with you. I think there were some matchups I thought, or some portions of the bracket. Obviously, I was all over Kentucky. That was a tremendous call by me. But you can have these moments where a team or just a portion of the bracket tends to be very chalky. Mm-hmm. Duke, Texas Tech. That style has really shown up.
It's 1 through 4. It's 1 through 4 on that side of the bracket.
Then you have one side of the bracket that the game. And I mentioned this in last week's podcast. You know what? I'm going to rant on this again because I'm going to take 30 seconds to do it. You're telling me when you're watching these matchups, okay, we talked about most of the matchups that are not being played while we're recording this podcast on a Thursday night. We've talked about the matchups on Friday. You know what one matchup we haven't talked about on Friday? Miami and Iowa State. Because you want to know why? There's 4 eyeballs on this screen right now. There might be 4 eyeballs watching that game. Because it's a 10 versus an 11, nobody cares. Unless you're gambling on it, nobody cares. That's what it comes down to.
And I will say, I love Miami in that game.
Yep.
ACC right now with how well they're playing, number one. But Miami themselves, going through the ACC tournament, what they're doing now to beat an Auburn team who I don't think was playing their best basketball later on in the season. But I did have them going to the Final Four in many of my brackets. Miami is a team that can go far because their defense is much better. They're shooting the 3 better with Isaiah Wong, and they have 2 guards that can really set the tone with Charlie Moore and Isaiah Wong. Yep. So they are definitely a team that can be scary moving forward.
Yeah, and Larinaga has got them playing really well right now. So I don't think that's a shock to a lot of us when you see a team like Miami, who's always kind of been pretty good when it comes to the ACC, but never really able to beat the North Carolinas, Dukes, and the higher end of it. But good to see them, and they might be able to make a run now. Very well could be a dangerous team, not only against Iowa State, but even in the next round as well. You just never know in this tournament. And I've seen this be more of a wide open tournament that we expected, other than the one bracket that Duke's in the West. Yes, it's 1 through 4. But other than that, I just think that this has been St. Peter's being a surprise, obviously Michigan, Iowa State, and all of them being a surprise too. So I think it's been a fun tournament for now. I think this is the weekend where we start seeing those better seeds kind of prevail, even though at the current time we've seen a dogfight in the Villanova and Gonzaga matchups. So that could end up changing as we move along here, but we'll see what Friday night looks like. And of course, you can always follow our picks at Get People Paid on Twitter. He is at Mariano_1212. I am at Mariano_closer on Twitter. As we are 15 minutes into this podcast, we will now continue to look at some other wagers you could look at, other than our game-by-game ones if you're following them on Twitter. Been doing pretty good here in the first couple weekends of the college basketball tournament. We'll see if we can continue that hot streak. But if I gave you right now, bro, fresh sheet, okay, you can go and you can play with the wagers and the odds you have now. I now can say Kentucky's already out. Here's an extra unit. Who are you going to pick now? Oh, before you even ask him,
I don't need
Purdue.
It's not even really a question.
Wow.
9-1 right now to win it all.
Okay.
They are actually the favorite now to get out of their region to make the Final Four at -125 for good reason. They have the St. Peter's matchup, which, I don't know if they cover. Once again, 12 and a half is a lot, but I don't think St. Peter's going to be able to slow them down. And then you're just asking them to either beat UNC or UCLA. Both teams playing good basketball, but UNC is going to try to rely on Armando Bacot and to say that he will not get in foul trouble against either Zach Edey or Travion Williams. Good luck. So I love Purdue making the Final Four, and they have a great chance to win it all. Hopefully my bracket serves me right. They'll be playing Duke, on that side, but that leads us back to tonight's game. So we'll stay away.
And you know what? I know that we're recording now, but if you get this beforehand or you follow us on Twitter, I already taken Duke money line tonight. I think Duke can be. I think everybody. The wise guy pick is so much on Texas Tech, in my opinion, that it makes me like Duke even more. And I could have my, Duke, boxers on, for God's sakes, to really prove that. But still, you look at a team like that right now is 11-1 right now to win. And all they got to do is win a few more games. My goodness, you're going to give me Coach K in his final run. The Cinderella story is already being written. Everyone's writing them off and figuring what round are they going to lose in. I know they'll have a tough road if they get there because it could end up being one of the top seeds in the tournament. And then you're going to get into someone, if you think it's going to be Purdue, they could play in the Final Four. It's not going to be an easy road. I get it.
Well, Arkansas is also beating Gonzaga right now as well. So if truth holds, they catch them, which I think is going to be a better matchup than than finding Gonzaga there again.
Even then, right now, I just think that the writing's on the wall just to have that one shining moment play at the end of the tournament, and it's Coach K's final one. It just screams too much for me. And I could be going and putting the jinx right on myself on our team because I did it to Kentucky last week. So very well could be happening here, and I'm sorry if that's the case. Duke and everyone, UNC fans are loving this. Duke fans might be hating this, but that would end up being my pick. I know that we're doing this right now. Another team I would look at that's playing tomorrow night, I think that has a heck of a chance. I like your Purdue play. What about a team like North Carolina? I'm going to stay in the ACC. I understand that with the matchup on the road they could have. 28-1 is a huge number right now. Why not? I mean, you don't have to, but you can put a half unit on if you want it. That's a huge number for me. And I think they have a heck of a chance to make a run here. So a couple long shots for me that I like if you want to play any sort of wagers for the rest of the tournament. And that's kind of like my pick if I want it, and the long shot if I like it there too. So you're listening to Get the People Paid here on Gozilla Media. Of course, get us on Twitter at Get People Paid, at Mariano_1212 for Jimmy, at Mariano_closer for me. And bro, I got to get a little thing for you. I had some people talking to us about Twitter, right? And the little Twitter etiquette, because both of us do use that Get People Paid Twitter feed. So usually this is how I describe to people who's making these picks? Who's the one that's usually playing it? And I go, listen, if it's not
if they're winners, it's me.
Okay. Yeah, that might be it right now. Considering who's been the hot one, this starting this tournament. It's okay. It's been me. You can understand. It's okay. But I just say this. This is my answer to that. If the Twitter is tagged, it's me. Because I will sit there and I will put my name out there in case I lose. And on the other case, Jimmy doesn't ever do it. He just expects everyone to know it's him because they lose all the time. So I don't know. It's just I don't understand. Why do you tag your picks? I don't get it. Every time you post them, it's Sergio Garcia, but it's just Get the People Paid has it. It's not, one of the two is picking this. I see what you're doing there. It's okay.
I thought it was easier. I thought we were a team. We were a team.
Oh, now it's a team. Okay, no.
By the way, if we want to talk about that bet, Sergio Garcia, 3 down with 5 to play, roars back to catch the push.
Yo, we're hashtag team push when it comes to the match play right now because I played Patrick Reed as well and won, and he battled all the way back to make birdie on the 18th hole for the push. So we're team pushing that when it comes to that. So we'll end this week's episode on not such a college basketball note, but big news coming out of New York for everyone listening that are big baseball fans and even NBA fans, that New York is now lifting the restrictions to mandate being vaccinated in order to play in arenas and ballparks in New York State. So for Brooklyn Nets fans, That brings Kyrie Irving back into play and now changes them at 4.5 to 1 to win the NBA title, which is way too low for me, which is how good the Eastern Conference is. But that changes everything when it comes to how you would assess the Eastern Conference. Now, Kyrie Irving, maybe if they played Toronto in the opening round, wouldn't play at all because you can't play in Toronto if you're not vaccinated. And then he wouldn't be able to play at home. Now he's at least playing the home games in that matchup and can play every other game in, the domestic United States. So I don't know, man. When I first heard that, I go, wow, the Nets now become a little bit more potent than you thought they would be going into the NBA, the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. I still don't like the Nets as much.
Okay.
The real conversation that I want to have, going off of that is the Miami Heat and what is going on with them right now. They're sitting here fighting for everything, and Jimmy Butler seems like he wants to throw it all away.
How bad was that scene?
Unbelievable.
How bad do you look on the sideline when you are freaking out and you have teammates pushing you in the middle of the court? And not only is a teammate going after you as well, but the head coach and Jimmy Butler are going at each other. That was a terrible scene on the sidelines of last night's game. And it was almost embarrassing, not only for the organization itself, but for Jimmy Butler as well. This team is one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and you're acting like that on the sidelines of a game where we're talking just a month or so away from playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just embarrassing in my opinion. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know if this is something that could fester over into the playoffs or is just something where you get under the rug and you get to the end of the year. I don't know. That worries me a little bit.
Yeah. So, I didn't mean to hop over your,
No, you're good. I like this conversation. That's good.
But I will say this with the Nets. We've had this the entire year where Kyrie's had a lot of time off.
Yep.
So when he plays, he's all out. He's scoring 30 to 40 a game, no problem. Is that going to happen down the stretch when he has to play day after day? Are his legs going to be up for it? So that's where I'm still a little bit worried about the Nets. In all honesty,
if that's the case, all right.
And we still haven't seen Ben Simmons yet.
I don't think we will. I really don't think we'll see Ben Simmons at this point. Now we're talking about a herniated disc in his back. I mean, at this point, going to end up being, all right, is he going to play the rest of the year? Now you made a trade to add a guy that could really be kind of a cornerstone to Kyrie and KD, and he might not even play because what he does is he brings that defensive intensity to your team. Mm-hmm. And how are you going to do that with a herniated disc in your back?
Yeah.
And I've talked to some people that have herniated disc. My mother, God bless her soul, has done it a couple times. That never changes. That doesn't go away. Mm. So I'd be a little bit worried about how he's able to even walk, let alone play at that high level that they would need him to play if you were to come back and get in the playoffs. But I don't know, bro. For me, I'm not big on the Nets. I just felt like that was a big boost to them when the governor comes out and says that, because it gives them the opportunity to not only – I don't think Kyrie will have tired legs as much as he'll be a little bit getting used to playing every 2 days, maybe not every 2 times a week maybe. Yeah. So that might be a little bit of a change. But I think once they get into the kind of a rhythm and he gets back to playing on a normal schedule, I don't think he'll have an issue with it. But I don't like them as much as other people do. And when you start bringing in teams like the 76ers and the Miami Heats and the Milwaukee Bucks and how deep the Eastern Conference really is, I don't know if you could take it 4.5 to 1 on the Nets, especially with all of the other talent that's going on in the Eastern Conference. But that brings in also right now, I don't want to talk about the Knicks. They embarrass me. They embarrassed me the other night too, because I can't even play them to win a game because they're so bad. They're so awful to watch. So I just play the under in a game because they can't ever score ever.
Oh, we might have been against each other there too.
And I got a runaway dunk with 4 seconds left for the dunk.
I had that over there.
Of course.
I had that
we're against each other.
Yeah, that was great, actually.
You give them a runaway dunk with 4 seconds left. What are you doing? Don't let them score. What is happening right now? And you're calling fouls with 8 seconds left. I'm going up against the luckiest guy ever.
That was McBride. Yeah, I love that. That was against the Hawks. That was the Hawks game.
The luckiest thing ever. It was like a Tuesday night or whatever it was. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Trae Young needed to hit both free throws to push, and then RJ Barrett just went down.
Screaming for the push.
It's actually 0.9 seconds
Come on. Oh, my God. It's like, of course, if I knew you were on it, I would have turned the TV right off. I lost. It is what it is. Can't battle against the luckiest guy in the world. It is what it is. But, yeah, it's you. You knock on your head. It's about as hollow as you can get. If you can hear it, couldn't hear it on the microphone that we use here. I'll get the people paid. But, all right, we'll leave you with this one. Another big portion of that vaccine mandate. Our father loses his mind over this stuff because baseball's played outside. So why the heck do we need to have mandates on that anyway? But rather here nor there, it's for a different conversation. The Yankees and Mets now both have players who are unvaccinated. Now are allowed to play home games and will be able to play guys such as Aaron Judge. Big deal that they're able to play now. Your thoughts just looking at this season for the Yankees, who now lost out on Trevor Story over the weekend. He ended up going to the Boston Red Sox. They made a couple moves, okay? You bring in a 36-year-old Josh Donaldson, but Yankee fans are clamoring for more. Where is the big splash move other than this trade for a 36-year-old former MVP who, yes, has a good bat, but now is on the other side of his 30s? Is that a move that you could really sell to your fan base by saying we are ready to win now? And granted, I think there's a big win here because Gary Sanchez is out the door. I cannot stand that guy. He's terrible. He's lazy. I'm so happy he's out the door, but I don't know if I like the replacement of Josh Donaldson with Gio Urshela. I was a big Gio fan.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I don't know how you saw that trade or not.
No, I thought the trade worked out. However, I don't think that they expect Yankee fans to be happy yet. I think that Yankee fans still need a pitcher. That is where we are still looking. Is Garrett Cole going to be the ace this year, or are guys going to come back healthy from last year and perform the way they did beforehand? Something that we won't know, but they have to make another move for a pitcher. And if we're looking at New York teams, the Mets blow out the Yankees with pitching far and away. Now, does that mean that they're going to have a better record? Well, they're still the Mets.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's tough. Listen, Lindor comes over, Javi Baez comes over. Oh, they got all the pieces, and they still don't do it.
Listen, I'm going to give you the Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast, because you got a guy now that wants to spend some money. He's got a ton of it, and he's a big Mets fan, and he wants to spend that money. This is not one of those Ponzi schemes when former Mets fans now are worried about. The Wilpons are not running this team. They now have a guy that wants to go out and spend a lot of cash. So I honestly, right now, of the two teams, I'm more excited if I would be a Mets fan than I'm a Yankees fan. You made moves. You have a team that's very good, and you have an owner that's willing to make big moves and go over the salary cap to give your team a chance. So honestly, right now, I would feel really good if I'm a Mets fan, thinking now that you've added – and what do you hear this prop bet I saw the other day? Pete Alonso over under home runs for the year. What do you think that number was off the top of your head? Pete Alonso home runs.
35.
Okay. Bet the under by a ton. 42 and a half home runs for Pete Alonso this year. That's an astronomical number for me.
Yeah, it's really tough when you just talk about somebody who anybody has the ability to get hurt. You never wish it upon anybody, but if he ends up out for a month or so, what are you supposed to do?
Mike Trout should have been over should be 39. I didn't look at that one, but it's probably in the high 30s, and he was out for most of last year. So that's tough to really play something like that when it comes to home run props. And of course, part of next week's episode, we'll have a lot for the Final Four. We'll have more Kentucky Derby preps that we can talk about in next week as well. And right after March Madness is done, you have the Final Four National Championship on Monday. On Thursday, baseball, baby. Baseball season's upon us. Pitchers and catchers are there. We have games being played. You're playing preseason games because
that was a winner, by the way. It was a winner.
Can't get enough action. He's got preseason baseball as well on top of these March Madness games. But, bro, it's always fun doing these episodes with you because not only can we talk like the total degenerates that we both are, but we can have fun with some of the listeners as well because they come up and talk to us. And make sure you guys reach out to us too on Twitter at GetPeoplePaid, at Mariano_closer, at Mariano_1212. But that is it for anything but sweet in the Sweet 16 matchups, bro. We'll be back again to do the Final Four. Your official pick. Purdue is right now. Purdue is his pick. Okay. I'm going to go with Duke. I'm going to take Duke. I'll put the KOD on them right now, but I think that they go and they win it all for Coach K. So, bro, appreciate the time as always. Best of luck with your wagers. And, of course, try to find a tag, your picks, please. And if you think you're listening, you're not sure who it is. If it's not tagged, it's Jimmy. It's okay. This has been Get the People Paid here for Gozilla Media. Thank you guys for listening and watching on YouTube. And, of course, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, get a hold of us on Twitter. We will always tweet back at you with any sort of insight that you like. And we'll talk to you again next week here for Gozilla Media and get the people paid. For Jimmy Mariano, I'm Brian Mariano. Have a better weekend.